Welcome everyone in the slums of Silver Screen, location we have enjoyed over all of the last century. I have praised the great movie. In order to guide international great variety of film and your communication host Jake Brown, ready to the world, I think. So we hate what? But we will be light discussion to come in order to participate in each episode, passed and to explore the current movie, our voice of our faithful viewers, what you'll be out of luck to them. After each episode, we will be required for up close we delve the movie at the bottom via our social media outlets of the screen to drill down. When I said that there is a human, we to let the right of diving. During each episode, we'll discuss a movie that we feel warrants considerable praise for bringing many positive artistic elements to the screen. This may be a new release, a not-so-new release, or even one of the classics. In our previous episode, we explored 2010's twisted graffiti art trip Exit Through the Gift Shop, declaring it a well-done piece within a preferred style of documentaries. In this episode, we'll explore the 1988 Japanese doomsday epic Akira, written and directed by Katsuhiro Otomo. But before we delve into whatever the hell our opening for this episode was all about, let's first talk some extras. Since we're on the subject of intelligent, timeless Japanese animation, I want to take a moment to honor one of the masters of this genre, and really a master of animated storytelling as a whole, acclaimed writer-director Hayao Miyazaki. For over 3 decades, Miyazaki's visions have brought together so much of what we cherish about youth, and even more of what we should cherish as adults, in a concoction of bright colors, dreamy landscapes, and profound, unforgettable characters and stories. Miyazaki's passion for perfection, as well as timeless quality works of art, shows in great detail on screen with each of his many pieces, and it shows. 4 out of the 5 highest-grossing films to ever come out of Japan are Miyazaki works, 3 of which are completely original stories. Speaking of original, I've often heard others, and regrettably myself at times, proclaim Miyazaki as the Disney of Japan. However, after much thought on this, I feel it's unfair to compare the two at all. The late great American animation filmmaker Walt Disney gave us many joyous twists on classic tales from around the world with his works of Sleeping Beauty, Pinocchio, The Jungle Book, and more, while simultaneously showing us the wonders of the hand-drawn animation that brought them to life. So it's easy to see how many might mistake these two artists as virtually the same. But upon closer inspection, you'll notice that with Miyazaki, the viewer is almost always guaranteed a completely original story, which for me is a definite plus. And these stories stand up above the rest as having unique and complex structures that tend to differ from traditional Western stories. Just look at My Neighbor Totoro. This is a film with no significant antagonist. There's no clear villain in this story, yet it still works. It still sticks with the viewer as a fun, awesome tale deserving of more and more viewings. In addition to the structuring of the stories, Miyazaki takes enormous efforts to convey very philosophical, sociological, and political messages, important messages that tend to be less prominent in the classic Disney animation. Now, this isn't to say that Disney has nothing to offer. I myself am still a huge fan of many of his movies, as well as other great Disney animations that followed his untimely passing. But I do feel it's important to distinguish the two as individual, phenomenal artists who have each had beautiful visions and successful executions of these visions in his own distinctively creative way. But I digress. Hayao Miyazaki's style of writing and directing is sure to leave the viewer in awe and wanting more. My personal favorites from him are 1986's Castle in the Sky, 1984's Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, and of course his 2001 Academy Award-winning masterpiece, Spirited Away. Which reminds me, there's a documentary out now all about Miyazaki's animation company, Studio Ghibli, and the great pieces they've produced over the years, and it's titled The Kingdom of Dreams and Madness. This documentary shows the dedication by these great artists and their refusal to produce anything less than gorgeous art. The Kingdom of Dreams and Madness is now available through video on demand, including digital outlets such as Apple's iTunes Store. We can only hope Miyazaki's feature films can eventually follow suit. Now that we've explored some of the more fun and playful styles of the Japanimation genre, let's turn our attention to the dark, foreboding world of our featured flick of the episode, the 1988 cyberpunk apocalypse anime, Akira. Akira was written and directed by Japanese artist Katsuhiro Otomo and was based off of his 1980s manga series of the same name. The story is set in the dystopian Neo-Tokyo, Japan in the year 2019, 31 years after a mysterious nuclear blast and subsequent World War III wipe out the original Tokyo, forever altering this beloved city-nation's landscape and people. It begins with the introduction of an unruly young biker gang who call themselves the Capsules. The Capsules are run by their leader, Shotaro Kaneda, with his coveted flashy red sport bike. Another important member of the group is the smaller Tetsuo Shima, who is often treated like the younger, weaker brother by Kaneda to the chagrin of Tetsuo himself. The story opens with a bloody, high-speed battle between the Capsules and another biker gang, the Clowns, on the rough streets of Neo-Tokyo. But it's when the young Tetsuo gets the better of one of the clowns and loses enough focus to miss a young boy standing in the middle of the road that he violently collides with the small child, destroying his bike and injuring himself in the process. Strangely enough, however, no harm has come to the boy, as it's soon discovered that this apparent young boy is actually a part of something much, much bigger. Something that has unintentionally endowed Tetsuo with incomparably great and potentially devastating powers. Now I want to pause for a second before showing the upcoming clip from this film to let my viewers know of my initial hesitance to play it on this show, as I wouldn't want to give away too much of the creative wonders of this movie before allowing our viewers to actually see it for themselves. But, in the end, I simply couldn't resist. In this clip, Tetsuo has been hospitalized following his collision with the mysterious young boy, and now the young boy and two other powerful characters conspire to rid Tetsuo of his accidental powers in the only way they know how. Let's take a look. Right? Wow! This is easily one of the most awesome clips I've seen on the screen, and it only gets crazier from there. But does crazy mean good? Yes, it does actually. It means good. But what else was crazy good about this moving painting? Well, let's start with that. This picture used more than 150,000 hand-drawn images within its 2-hour runtime, much more than is usually found in an animated film. There were also many custom colors made for it as well. And keep in mind, this is in 1988. I mean, the animators took such care in creating the intricate details of this destroyed city and the life within it. It really is a painting that has come to life right before your eyes. But a moving painting is nothing without a strong story, and Akira doesn't disappoint here either. With a story set against a backdrop of political and social decay, riots sweeping the streets of a falling city, Akira brings to light themes of human evolution as well as power, namely the corruption of power. And the three small children, known as the Espers, have all been endowed with certain unseen powers due to previous government experimentation, which allow them to read minds, control the words of others, and even see the future. But it's the contrast of their good nature with Tetsuo's rebellion run amok that gives us a chilling look at innocence turned evil, and also sends a crucial message about power and how we choose to wield it. A message mirrored in the nuclear blast at the beginning of the movie, and the corrupt politics that is the backdrop of these billowing events by its end. And that end. We're talking an epic ending that rivals such transcendent works as 2001: A Space Odyssey, with its unrestricted, outside-the-creative-box finale. As for the characters in Akira, each player is unique in his or her own way, with certain religious symbolism applied to specific key players. I've always found it interesting how Tetsuo gradually goes from minor side character to horrifying supervillain throughout the story. The same with Kaneda and him being forced into his surprising superhero role. The way in which this plays out is unexpected yet very appealing. And finally, who is Akira? This titular character, mentioned all throughout the film, slowly builds up his mysterious presence until the final monumental moments, at which point the viewer may wish for that unsettling ignorance that vexed them at the start. But as we should all know by now, a quality film isn't always quality without some of that good music. Just as we experienced in our clip of the movie earlier in the episode, the music of Akira is very innovative for an animated film, trusting that its audience will appreciate the deviation from what we've come to love about many animated films of the past. The sounds are very tribal at times, incorporating heavy ambient vocal sounds, as well as sudden loud percussion strikes when perfectly appropriate. With all of these attributes, it's easy to see how such a work of art could inspire generations of filmmakers and storytellers to come. But it isn't perfect. Then again, no work of art ever is. But where this film falters isn't so much in the movie itself. No, it's the distribution to international audience that shows flaws, specifically in the English dubbing of character dialogue. But Otomo and crew aren't necessarily to blame here. Nearly every time I watch a foreign film, I notice that the audio overdub versions are less accurate than the versions with the original audio dialogue and subtitles at the bottom of the screen, as it's apparent that the sound coordinators for the former are more focused on matching the audio with the lip movements on screen. Now, this is understandable, but it can be infuriating for a viewer trying to grasp as closely as possible what the original artist is attempting to execute. Therefore, it's almost always recommended to view the latter version of a foreign flick to get the best experience possible, with, of course, some obvious artistic exceptions. Good news, everyone! It looks like we have a comment on this episode's feature flick from one of our loyal viewers, and this comment comes from Anthony C11749, and it reads, "You picked Akira for an anime? It's cliche and overrated. What about something like Grave of the Fireflies? Have you seen anything else?" Well, there are good reasons for us choosing this particular film, as it was very groundbreaking for its time, and it's a perfect relay to other great Japanese works. But we do appreciate other suggestions like Grave of the Fireflies as well. If Anthony or anyone else has any, feel free to let us know for possible future episodes. We're always happy to hear from our viewers. And with that being said, we'll now move to our recommendations for films similar to Akira. There is another great classic Japanimation movie out there that we feel is on par with Akira in many different aspects, and that is 1995's philosophical cyborg thriller Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell was directed by Mamoru Oshii and follows Major Motoko Kusanagi, a cyborg set in Japan in the year 2029, as she works with her government to track down a malevolent, faceless hacker known only as the Puppet Master. In her search for this mysterious person, she looks into her own identity and discovers more about what it means to have a soul, or ghost. The film, much like Akira, explores the wonders of Darwinian evolution, as well as philosophical concepts of corruption of power and conflicting moral judgments. It was a foundational inspiration for the Wachowski siblings' early 2000s Matrix trilogy of films, and we definitely suggest it, especially if you're a cyborg. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Silver Screen Slam. Join us next episode when we'll be checking out the 1999 Oscar-winning midlife wake-up call American Beauty, directed by Sam Mendes and starring Kevin Spacey and Annette Bening. If you have anything you'd like to voice about next episode's film, or if you enjoy the show in general, feel free to drop us a line on our social media outlets at the bottom of your screen. It'll help us sleep at night. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Jake Brown, asking you to Baiku Oronosute Kure and to get outside more and watch some movies. Thank you. Sorry about that. Forever altering this beloved city nation's landscape and people. It begins with the introduction. I cannot get this right, man. I'm gonna try that one more time for Matrix Trilogy. I'm trying to think of how I can make that robot thing funny. It's not very funny. Uh-oh.